Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome to our webinar. My name is Danielle. I am a customer success manager here at Discourse. This is our Making the Move from Khoros to Discourse webinar, where we'll talk you through all the details, the migration process, and things of that nature. We also have some case studies and some featured speakers of some former clients who have made this move. So, we'll do a nice live Q&A with them. But first, I'm going to kick it over to our Director of Product, Dave, to talk about the topical level of just the moment of change for communities.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dave, the Director of Product here at Discourse, and I just wanted to kind of recognize the moment that we're in. The kind of landscape of enterprise communities is shifting, as we're all aware. It's always kind of undergoing change. We are developing new features, our competitors are as well. But in this moment, with Chorus's future being a bit uncertain, many customers, many communities are looking for what their next option is going to be. So we want to kind of make the case for why you should consider Discourse. With over 10 years of experience hosting large communities that kind of operate at many different scales, from the small teams to big communities with more than 10,000 monthly active users and 45 million page views, we do know and have plenty of experience how to operate very large communities. If you want to go to the next slide, Danielle. The other part about not just scale, but the adaptability of Discourse is really important, I think, to understand. Discourse is a product that works really well out of the box. You can start a community. You can go to our website today and click start your trial, and you can have a community up and running in minutes. But it's also a platform, and it's a platform that is highly configurable. So you can go into the admin dashboard and configure the product to behave in various different ways with all the built-in features. And you can customize it, whether that's taking a theme that's available or building your own theme or having us build a theme with you to make it look and feel the way you want it to match your company's brand. And there's APIs and other plugins available for integrations with all sorts of features. So if you want to integrate it with internal systems in your organization, whether it's your CMS or other kind of ticketing systems that you use, that's something that we can do. Or if there's something else that you've built that may be bespoke to your company, we can also work to integrate it with those things. And then the other thing that's very unique about Discourse is how we're an open source product. That is a technical thing, and it's also kind of a values thing. From the very beginning, Discourse has been an open source project. We have built the product with our community. The transparency that this offers means that you can even see the product and how it's evolving over time. You can watch the commit logs on GitHub and see how we're landing features as we do them, even if you haven't turned them on yet for your community. And so you have deep insight into how the product's evolving. But it also means that from the very beginning, data portability has been a key value of ours. So we've built migration tooling from day one to help migrate people from other platforms that existed 10 years ago, and those continue to be used today. And we've made data portability something built into the product. So being able to create backups of your data, download those backups and restore them, whether you're on our hosting or hosting Discourse yourself or with another provider. So we believe that you should be able to take your data with you. And of course, we believe that regardless of where you are today, and our migrations team and our migrations tooling team work to make it easy to take data from any system and import it into Discourse. So with that, I'm happy to hand it over to the team that knows the most about that.
Awesome. So we're going to get into some case studies with our Director of Migrations, Coco. So I will let you take it away.
Hello, I'm Coco from Discourse migrations team. I'm the manager of the migrations team. I'm going to go over three big Khoros migrations that we did in the past. So the first one, Daniel, thank you. So the first Khoros migration I'm going to talk about was e-commerce community, very focused on the developer users. So this was, we already had enterprise relationship in place with this customer. So they had multiple sites hosted with us. This was really helpful for us because we had some implementation past with them. We had a history of working with them. So if whenever they needed to take any decisions about how to implement something, they already had the precedence of their previous sites. So this really helped the customer with decision making. And we also had the other sites to copy site settings and other configurations. So that was very helpful in this case. Another particularity of this migration was that they had a lot of cleanup needs for the data. So both during the migration and after the migration, we did a lot of cleanup, re-tagging content, moving content from one category to the other, archiving content that they didn't want public anymore. So that is something that we usually do during a migration, but that we can also do after, help them move things in bulk and from different places in their site, delete content. So that was something big that we did during this migration. Another thing is we restructured the user groups. So in Khoros, they use roles and rankings, and we map that into Discourse user groups. It's much easier to manage when you only have the user group feature to manage your user permissions and your users' achievements. So we migrated everything into new Discourse groups. To make it easier to manage permissions, to keep achievements, badges, titles, other things that were particular to the user groups that were previously in roles and rankings. This site was also multi-language, we could say. So they had a lot of categories in different languages in Khoros. They had in English, French, German. So what we did was develop a new language drop down, a button in the homepage. So whenever they clicked on a specific language, they will be taken to the category in that specific language. So this is what made was particular about this migration. Then the next one was this was a very heavy content migration. They had a lot of content, but they also had a lot of moderation needs. So they really wanted to be very granular about their content. They wanted to take a deep look into what they had in their Khoros database before migrating. So it was like shooting two birds with one stone, you could say. So because we migrate them, but we also help them look at the data and decide what needed to be migrated and what not, right? So this was a hybrid migration that we did, migrating from the Khoros database, but also using Excel spreadsheets. So they had around 80K records just in the Excel spreadsheets. So instead of migrating directly from the database, we used what was in the Excel spreadsheets to decide what was going to be migrated from the database. So this made this project very, very particular and helped us develop a way to work with spreadsheets. So now we do it for all migrations when customers have mapping needs, they need to decide what to migrate, what not to migrate. Now we have a whole system with CSV and Excel spreadsheets. This customer had very elaborate needs about development and infrastructure. So during migrations, it's not only the migration team working on the site. We also have the designers, we have the developers, we have the support and the infrastructure team. So if they need a custom email set up, we can help with that. We also have the support team helping because during a migration, the customer is moving to a new environment, right? It's a completely new site for them most of the time. And people need help understanding the features, getting used to the new environment. So we do migration, but we also do support. We do a lot of support and help during this time to understand the different features. So we were very involved in that sense during this particular migration. Well, during all of the migrations, really. Then they had a lot of customization done on their site, a completely revamped look. It's difficult to say it's this Discourse if you see their sites. They have a lot of interesting elements. Category carousel, they have a few uh, uh, design new elements on their sites. And again, as I mentioned before, this was moderation was very important to them. So we migrated all of the moderation related content from Khoros. So we do this for all migrations, but for this customer in particular, it was very important that we kept banned users, why the user were banned, who banned the user and when. That we took a look at every single topic and decided we will migrate this, we will skip this other topic, or we will migrate this topic but keep it hidden. So we were very granular and we went into very detail with this migration. We looked even at that PMs. We migrated one-on-one PMs only. We didn't migrate group PMs. We skipped migrating certain usernames, on migrating certain images, all based on the criteria from the customer. But it's something that is totally possible to do during a migration. And then the last one I'm going to talk about. Next slide, please. Is a community where users exchange their experiences, many kinds of experiences, traveling, going to restaurants, they tell stories in the sites, and they also make connection with other users rather than being a developer community or an e-commerce community like the previous ones. This is more of like end user community, like regular you and person like you and I, like day-to-day person. They talk about their day-to-day sometimes. So in this, something that I really liked about these migrations is that they had a custom event feature. So they had in Khoros, they already had event topics, regular topics talking about certain events. But instead of migrating those events directly into Discourse, we migrated the event topics into a new custom feature that we created for them. So it was a completely new way to see this event content and to interact with this content. So instead of migrating images, we migrated the images into the new feature so you could display the images in a completely new way in Discourse. Another thing that we did is collaborate a lot with the customer with data discovery. This is a community that had been running for years, and that had gone through a lot of upgrades. So they had a lot of legacy data in the database. So we helped the customer discover what they had in there. It's very easy for them to forget data from maybe 5 years ago. Maybe the data wasn't very organized. There was a lot of legacy tables. So we helped them whenever they had a custom request of how they wanted to see the data. We would generate reports for them so they could take a look at it. So this was very important during this migration to help them decide what to migrate and how to migrate it. They also had a new category structure that they wanted for their site. So we helped them import everything into using the tags and categories from Khoros. We used a completely new criteria to import it into new categories and tags in this course. Finally, they had also a new badge system. So they didn't use this course default badges. They also didn't use Khoros badges. We created new badges for them according to the criteria that they had and the condition that they needed. They just, in plain language, they told us how they wanted the badges to be granted, and we wrote the custom SQL for the badges and created a new badge system for the users. So yeah, those were the 3 big migrations that I was going to talk about today. We've done many more, but these were very interesting. We've learned a lot from these migrations. We've developed a whole Khoros migration process from what we learned with these ones. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Coco. So now we're going to move into a Q&A with a recent enterprise migration that we have from Khoros. So we have a former program manager for Local Guides Migration, ORIT, and we have Flavia, who is a former project manager for Local Guides Migration. So my first question is for Orit. So can you talk us through the moment you realized your community platform needed to evolve and what drove that shift?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. Danielle, is everybody here with me? Okay, great. Yeah, so I think we had a few things that were going on for a significant amount of time that ended up making us need to make this shift. The first one is that we had a limited functionality and usability issues that basically prevented us from scaling, and it created a lot of challenges for us around that. So we wanted to have our community very much engaged, for that we needed specific features and we needed specific abilities that either time or cost would not be able to do. So the biggest one of them was actually the mobile view. As time progressed and the community we had, in habits for people that were 10 years ago shifted and changes as much more people went to mobile, we needed the ability to have a very sleek mobile view. Not only that, also the ability to be engaged on mobile. So even if you have a mobile view, if you can't do the actual action very simply, like posting and reacting, then it defeats its purpose. Because again, as the world progressed, as everybody moved to mobile, today the majority of the activity is happening in mobile, and that was a really big request we got from our community for a long time. And the data supported that it's something we really needed to do. Another thing is operational cost, and the heavy lifting just grew every year and year. So almost expecting, additional cost every year. And we needed to see how are we mitigating those costs and actually being able to reduce them as well. And the last thing is we want to keep our community, healthy and happy. And we got a lot of feedback from our community of all the features and needs they have that it's just due to platform limitations we couldn't provide. So we had to explore and see what would work best for us and how to basically find a platform that matched the current needs of our community.
Excellent, thank you. So the next question is for Flavia. What were some of the most surprising or pivotal moments along the way?
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for having us. It's great to be here and contribute our experience with your team. There were so many, but I think speaking internally within the team as the project manager coming in and being my first migration from Khoros platform to Discourse, I think in retrospect, what was surprising is the amount of time that we ended up spending in things that we felt like could move a little bit faster, like figuring out structure or naming convention for all categories and the two levels of subcategories, tags. I think the alignment in the work that goes into making sure that stakeholders are happy, we are really aligning for scale, right? Going from an older structure to revamping to a new one. I think a little bit of the learning curve as well of understanding how that will all work out. But I think to our surprise, yeah, it took a little bit longer, but having the migration team like handhold us and having a template, having a way to plug everything that we were sharing into a cohesive way and feeling safe that, yeah, what we're sharing is not getting lost in translation or just having that assurance. And we were very lucky at that time with that transition to have Coco and so many others in the team helping out. So yeah, I think it was a little bit surprising that it took as long as it did for us to finally feel like we have finalized this and we're ready to move on and we feel good about it. And I think there were other pivotal moments when we just really saw these super complex custom features, some which Coco mentioned. The event was one that, it was long hope for the community. We used other kind of manual processes in order for that to happen for them. And when we finally saw it, like, wow, this is working. Taking something that already worked within Discourse and adapting to our reality and what we needed for in the needs of the community was very really a pivotal moment. Like that validated the decision in a ways. Like, yeah, we're taken care of, and this is going to really change the dynamics of how things function, and bringing really listening, like the community will feel heard. And honestly, I think when we finally got to the moment that we were leading to launch, seeing the UI, the UX, so just everything coming together, is that really that aha moments, like, wow, was worthwhile. Those are some of the ones, but there were so many other custom things, and we put a lot on the team with our requests, but it was always well met.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I will hop back over to Ort for the next question. So, what role did open source flexibility play in your decision, and how has it shaped your community experience?
Yeah. So definitely that was a huge advantage for Discourse when we were analyzing and checking our options. We did the research for a long time. This was a really pivotal point for us because it allowed us to basically create the feature we needed, and it allowed us to work with our community and give them the fastest and best response. So I'll talk about a few things, but there's a lot. There's a lot more. Like open source is just endless possibilities. The first thing is that it eliminated our vendor dependency. So each platform has different structure and different teams you need to hire and different vendors. And it basically reduced our vendor dependency because the open source is basically making Discourse a one-stop shop. So not even if we put the cost side away, which is very important, it's even the communication, right? You have less external people to communicate from all over the world, and you're able to focus your effort in one lane of communication, and that helps a lot. So that was a very big thing. The second, the open source allow us much faster iteration, right? If we had to change a logo and it took us a week, or change a color, now it took us 5 minutes. So it's efficiency all over, not just in the, not just again, like I said, with the money of the hours, but also it enables our team to do more. So basically giving us the ability to do more with less staff. And it's a win-win. We're able to enhance integration and customize feature. So also we could align better with internal platform in our company and internal data that we can combine with the Discourse platform and use it to provide a better user experience for our community. Made it much more simple and much more streamlined. And again, like I mentioned, building customized feature that each community, had their own specific needs was a really big game changer for us. And it was all enabled due to open source. Made it much more faster, much more efficient, and of course, much more cost efficient as well. A big thing, and this will be the last one that I'll mention, but like I said, there's many, many more, is the ability to automate manual process. So even if you're looking at processes like banned user, removal of user, check community health, so all these processes can be automated, saving a lot of time, and can have a customized report to them. So the access for data is in seconds and not in days or weeks, which allows us to do a better service for our community and immediately address their needs. So like I said, that was a very big thing for us, and that's the reason we eventually decided to use Discourse.
Thank you for sharing, especially elaborating on the benefits of being open source. So the next question is to both of you. So what has your collaboration with the Discourse team been like?
Okay, I can start. I mean, for me personally, and I think I can speak on behalf of the rest of the team too, that was working directly with the team. It really felt genuinely smooth, like really incredible. You know, the back and forth, all the back and forth that we had, just felt like we could, early on, we just realized we could trust. We were working with experts in the industry and people that really could show there was a deep understanding of what it takes to build community, and to build a community, not only to build, but build a community that will thrive. Um, and I think one of the things, looking back, some of the things that really impressed was the responsiveness. Just really like we could depend on not only their expertise, their feedback when something maybe wasn't exactly like they had experience they can bring from other customers. So I think being able to rely on that was very critical. Sometimes we just didn't know what we didn't know, and being able, even with UI improvements, for example, I think as you look on the local guides community, is you can see that it's heavily customized. So the creative suggestions was always so on point. And yes, we were validating a lot of that with the internal team. But yeah, it really helped enhance the final product. And yeah, it was just really impressive for me. Like the responsiveness and helping us through so many questions and challenges was very critical. Yeah, we just felt very grateful to have the team there along the way.
Yeah, and I will definitely plus one everything Flavia said. It was a pleasure and an honor working with the team. A big point that I would want to mention is the expertise in the directedness of the connection, and not even talking about community. My work with vendors, regardless in different aspects of my role, a lot of times I find myself, okay, you open the ethic and you talk to one person that contacts a different person, that goes to a different person. And then until the answer get back to you, it becomes so messy and there's no really one point of contact. There's no, the expertise is lost along the way. And I think the fact that we had direct access with the PM, with the engineer, with Coco, with the migration, immediately, and everybody brings their expertise together, then all these time that, you're searching for answer for very big companies is narrowing to minutes. And that was a huge game changer, and that I would, always be appreciative of it, because I still work with many vendors in different areas and I still feel the pain, which makes me much more grateful and understanding of the importance of this direct contact and this knowledge and expertise that the team is bringing to the table.
So thank you for sharing that. The final kind of formal question I have here is for others considering a transition, what advice would you give about preparing for a successful migration and long-term community success?
All right, I'll jump in on this one. I mean, there are many things, and I think as we think through, maybe there are more questions, we can bring some of the other advices as it pops into our head. But I think really having a core team, like really getting prepared and building, like understanding the roles that you need in order to make this transition successful. Having very clear roles and responsibilities from the day one, I think is paramount. And I think the community manager, right? Whether is already a role. Hopefully, that person stays and that has a pretty know-how of how the community was set, wherever they are moving from, right? And understanding, then getting very well educated with the features and the settings and everything that Discourse has to offer. I think that person understanding the contrast of both worlds is really crucial. I think it would be really difficult to have not have the person who the familiarity with the current in the current platform to come in and have to learn both. So I think if all possible, keeping that role intact and having that person help as in the transition would be really important. I'm a little bit biased, but I think having a project manager that can keep people within the timeline, having the communication internally and with Discourse and navigate the alignment and help bring understanding and clarity to the conversations is really, really important. And then also like tying in the resources, right? From engineering to legal, even if it's not a completely dedicated marketing person, but someone, if you're going to have branding aligning on the front end and a UI UX, that you make sure that all these resources are in place before you get started, because things tend to take a lot longer than we imagine or plan for. So I think that would be kind of like top advice. I don't think well, if I think of something else, I'll come back.
Definitely classing one again. I'll give two advice of my own, but again, there's a lot, and happy to help if you have additional questions. But I think it's really, really important to understand the why behind your migration. Like, why are we doing this, and why now? Very important, because you have to, like, even if you put Discourse aside, you have to work with your own stakeholder, and you have to come in, justify the change, because sometimes, the hassle of moving a platform would create such fear and like anxiety that people would like, oh, let's just stay with what we know. Let's stay with what we do. It's harder. It takes more time. It's more expensive, but it's something that we know. And we don't want to change. We don't have time. We have more priorities. So you have to really, really understand, why are you doing it and why now? When you have those really, really clear, crystal clear, then you can always come defend, even if it gets a little bit hard, even if it, takes a little longer, even costs a little bit more money. You really are able to defend your decision and make it work, right? It's not easy, not for a community to move a platform, not for an internal team, not for a company. But you have to have a strategy, and you have to look for the long-term benefit and make sure that they're understood to all. The second advice I would say is, don't do it alone. Involve your community. Don't come to your community and say, oh, today we're here, tomorrow we're there. So find like a beta team, a core team, an expert team, depending on the size of your community, and get them involved. Share with them what do you plan to do. Do the research on what features the community want. Have them be your advocate and talk to their, larger community, if you're doing it on a country based or a language based, depends, however your community work, and put them into the process. Those key people that are, going hand in hand with you, so they would feel engaged, and they will able also, once you move platform, to kind of spread the word and encourage more people to try, more people to use, and they don't feel left out. Because, as much as we think like, okay, we run the community, we built the site. No, the community runs the community. It's their site. We are just their humble servant, and we're just trying to create a space for them to do their own thing, and for us to be very privileged to be a part of it. So involve them, and my suggestion early on, like before we even started the transition, we were doing research with our users, we were talking to them, we were also understanding what's the level of their willingness to have, for example, our site was not able to respond for 2 weeks when we did the transition. Is that acceptable, not acceptable? What is the cost for them as a user as well, that they're willing to have in order to get this new platform and new feature? So that would be my other advice here. And again, it's a journey, so prep up for it in a good way.
If I could build up a little bit on that too, I think all that can only happen, and I wrote it down, is like you need to have a really good communication strategy, right? Like if you don't have it, you got to involve the community early on, as Orit said. And then you really think about like a robust multi-channel communication plan, having that in place, not only internally for your stakeholders, but then for the users as well, keeping them informed along the way. Obviously, when is the appropriate time. For us, we had a kind of a focus group, kind of people that already knew and kind of in parallel worked with us from the very beginning of the stages, and then we opened up at the right moment to the rest of the community. So whatever, it may be different for different communities, but thinking about how you will keep the users informed before, who is that group of people during and after the migration, across all platforms, email, whatever you plan to use is really important. It really just builds the trust, and being transparent is really important.
Thank you both so much for sharing your journey, what you went through, the tips and strategies for migration. I guess I'll ask, are there any last anecdotes that you would like to add outside of the questions format?
I mean, we can think of so many other things that are so important, right? Like, I mean, there's a whole journey in phases. I mean, I was so close to this process and phasing it out, right? Phase one, the planning, and then the implementation to, and then I think one other big one that I'm sure Reed will completely agree is there's no, like QAing the side is like a non-negotiable. How are you going to test, right? Are you going to involve outside the users, yes or no, right? I've seen cases where, maybe it's one or two, sometimes it's a group of people, like, making sure that we have more and more eyes, as many eyes as you can to test it out and make sure that you're going to launch feeling pretty good about it. Not only can't just rely on the Discourse team, which they do an amazing job at helping QA, but I think you need your own users and team also looking into it. It's something else that can be overlooked.
Yeah. And I would, just say give yourself enough time. So again, I think we have a tendency, at least also, from personal experience to say, oh, next year, or like, oh, this is fine for now, or like, keep pushing and pushing the end. And then you can get to a situation that you have no choice. And then you have to do things very rushed, and they may won't turn out the way you want. And you are, backed into a corner and need to answer to a lot of people. My recommendation would be not to wait. I think from the day I started my role on this project, that was my main goal. Took me time to convince stakeholder and to actually, being able to start the process and to get a budget and everything around that. But I think that was immediate, my top on my priority list to do. So I would say if you have the ability, not postpone, because you never know what's going to happen next year. Would you have the budget? Would you not have the budget? Will the person that supported, would they still be in that role or not? Would they move a different team? And then you have to start from scratch. So that would be kind of my last point to say, because it's so dynamic. And to be honest, if we had to start over today, I don't know if we could have, like, not with the budgeting and not with the situation, and teams are reorged and change, and even if I could do it, I don't know if I could have done it that well. We ended up with a product that we are really, really proud of, that we worked really hard on, and that we invite all of you to use and try and become local guides.
Awesome. Thank you so, so, so much. I probably said thank you a million times, but we're so grateful for your insight. Yes, we just got a message from a Discourser that says, thank you for doing this and sharing. So if anyone has any questions, you can start putting them in the QA feed. But right now I'm going to kick it over to Ruben, who is our migration specialist, to just chat about the migration process, how it works, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Danielle. As everybody heard, my name is Ruben, and I'm excited to take you through the migrations journey today. Building on those inspiring case studies from Coco and Real Talk Q&A with Ort and Flavia, I want to focus on how we make migrating from Khoros to Discourse a confident, low-stress experience, not just for you, but for your community members as well. I know change can feel daunting, especially if your members have built deep attachments to their digital home, their profiles, their relationships, and shared history. That's why our approach isn't just about moving data, it's about honoring those emotional bonds while guiding everyone to a better, brighter future. We'll explain how our careful review process ensures smooth migration and how your Khoros data maps easily to Discourse. Our team at Discourse works hand in hand with you every step of the way to ensure a smooth and future-ready move from Khoros. We've got the proven process that's already helped communities like the ones you just heard about thrive post-migration. Members worry about losing their post history, connections, or a sense of belonging. That's why we emphasize starting early. Communicate weeks or months in advance, create a dedicated topic for questions, and involve super users during the migration process. Let them review the migration site and test out functionality. This will help reduce fear of the unknown and build excitement for your discourses, real-time features, improved search, and trust levels that reward positive participation. We also focus on preserving what matters most. User profiles, private messages, categories, topics, posts, and all of the media within them and attachments. But we know that every community has very unique needs. So everything else that's crucial to you, we can also migrate. Custom badges, specific permissions, user groups, etc. That makes QA very crucial. So don't rush it. And remember, this is your chance to reevaluate and improve, not just to replicate. So make sure you have all the data and they are in the place and everything is working as you're expected to do. The key is to make sure that you have empathy and transparency turn resistance into collaboration, setting up yourself for long-term success. All right, now let's get into the nuts and bolts of how the migration actually works behind the scenes. On the left, you'll see a simple overview of the review cycle. This isn't just a one-way press the button and hope for the best approach. It's a collaborative, repeatable process designed to give you complete visibility and control. We start with a full copy of your community's data from Khoros, and at the same time, you get to work with our design and development experts to fine-tune your Discourse sandbox site. The sandbox site becomes your safe place where you set up your look, feel, and functionality just the way you want it. Next, we merge that Khoros data that we got earlier and with your customized Discourse theme and settings from the sandbox site onto a dedicated Discourse migration site. This site isn't public yet, so it's for your team and champions to explore, review, and make sure everything feels just right. Yeah, this is where QA becomes very important to make sure you review your categories, posts, permissions, and all the details that matters most to you. If something looks off, or if you want to try a different approach, we simply adjust and repeat. We go through as many cycles as needed and to get things right. So no surprises, nothing gets hits production until you're fully satisfied. And over to the right, you'll see how all those familiar Khoros elements, boards, threads, messages, labels, kudos, roles, and more are mapped to their Discourse counterparts. These are just some of the common elements we migrate, and if your community has any other important features or content, we'll work with you to ensure those come over as expected to. Members will find their contributions, reputation, and their relationships fully honored and seamlessly adapted to their new home on Discourse. The whole point of the review cycle is to move at your community's pace. By focusing on transparency, reliability, and collaboration, we turn what could be a moment of stress into an opportunity of rebuilding trust and rekindling excitement about your community. Because in the end, migration isn't just about a technical task. It's about carrying forward your community's spirit and story, ensuring everybody feels home from day one. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ruben, for sharing about the process. So now it's over to those in our audience. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and submit them and we will get them answered for you. It can be specifically about Khoros migration or migrations in general, but any questions that you have, we would be happy to get those answered for you.
I do have a question for Orit or Flavia, since you're here already. So during the local guides migration, for me, it was really impressive, the beta testing that you did. The whole testing of the site, maybe Orit, you know a bit more since this happened more at the end of the project. But you did a very in-depth testing of the migrated data. You really involved your users. Like, could you tell a bit more of the strategy that you followed? How did you decide who will do the testing? How you picked your users? You had multiple beta tester groups as well. It was very, very complex strategy that you follow there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, like I mentioned before, involving the community is very, very important. That was our strategy from the start. How we pick our our community is divided to different tiers of engagement that we have kind of top contributor,
Oh, yeah.
or so, sorry.
No, continue. Sorry.
Okay. Our top contributor, top local guide, they're either country manager, or global managers, um, uh, depending on their engagement. And these very, top users actually have communications with us. We meet with them once a month. We discuss our different, community needs. They share with us what they learn from their local communities and, provide it to us so we can better serve the community. So they're really, we're working with them down hand in hand. We have meetups with our communities, whether it's online and on site. So those key users, they know the individual in their local areas, and they are doing amazing in actually kind of be advocate for local guide and really surfacing the needs and also like the good and exciting news of their local communities. So first we involve kind of this very, very top tier, and then we expand a little bit, and we also shared like surveys. Would you even want to be involved to a larger group of users? Are you interested in being involved? Would you like to kind of join us to this journey? So it was both. It's like active outreach from us and also aligning with the interests of our community, like who actually wants to be involved and um, to test it out and to help us build the features. A key, like Flavia says, is communication, right? So really prepping them because they're super busy people. They have lots to do. This is their, come from their heart and soul to want to do good for the people around them. So really understanding timeline and respect their time also, and making sure we're sharing the exact time of these testing that are happening. If they can or cannot join, it completely fine, but just gives them the option and gives them the awareness and not, spring anything on them like, tomorrow, like do this. No, so very thoughtful in communication with them, and also be very grateful and making sure we are acknowledging their efforts and being very, I don't know how to say it, respectful and grateful for their time and efforts. Flavia, do you have anything you would want to add?
Yeah, I think you covered pretty much all the points. I can only, add that, it's not easy to just like handpick. It needs to be kind of a back and forth and make them feel that they are involved in the decision. So it's not like, oh, hey, like, yeah, you are, because even even though it can be viewed by us, and I think perspective is everything, right? It can be viewed as, perceived as, wow, it's an honor to have you, but it could be a lot to ask of someone. So I think opening up and saying, yes, what parts of this would you want to be, it's catches your attention? Do you want to contribute to, right? And involve them really early on, giving them as much ample time as possible. This is coming up at this time, during the migration and checking in. Yes, but I think it goes back to an earlier point too, that I was lucky enough with this migration that I was that kind of face of the community for many months, as Ori kind of shifted her role into more alignment with stakeholders, and I worked hand in hand with her. I got to know the community really well. Like, it was a monthly meeting, and I got to know really all of their complaints, who contributed, who was there, like what their voice really meant, and which really guided us in then sort of like selecting, probably these were the people that most likely would say yes to something like this, would be able to commit. So I think knowing the users, and I was just lucky enough to had that contact with them months before and really vetting through the strategic decision of whether we should move, what should happen to this community, right? And yeah, it wasn't a simple 1, 2, 3, not a few weeks, but months of deliberating, pulling data, doing a lot of coordination internally and understanding. To Reed's point, like what is the why? What is the vision? Being very clear on that.
Yeah. And all that effort really shows, because I was very impressed on how committed your community is, and how active they are and respectful to each other. So I think the effort really pays, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree.
Awesome. I'm going to do one last call for questions. I understand that some of you might have some private questions or things that you don't want to put out publicly. Maybe it's regarding your company. I'm going to go ahead and put our contact page down at the bottom, different ways to connect with us, but team@discourse.org is going to be our email. And of course, we can connect you with the fabulous resources that we have here, and all of their shared experience as well, if you want things from that perspective. But we don't have any questions in the queue, so feel free to reach out. Thank you everyone on this panel for joining us. Thank you attendees for joining us, and we will see you on our next webinar. Thanks, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.